Welcome to Future Campus. We're really excited today. We've got Griffith University Vice Chancellor, Professor Carolyn Evans with us to make a really important announcement which will be of interest across the sector. Now, Carolyn, can you tell us about the plans that we're going to discuss today?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. We have been thinking about how can we come out of COVID and all of the disruption of the last few years as strongly and clearly as we can. Hasn't been an easy time for any of us in terms of having the right amount of money that we would like to have. So when we looked at what strategic money we had, we wanted to invest it in people. I mean, people in the end are at the heart of what we do as a university. And so we're announcing that we've got 100 academic positions that we'll be hiring in addition to our existing load over the next 6 to 12 months. They're in particular areas, but they are areas across the university, and most of them are at level B or C. So we're looking for great early and mid-career researchers. And again, we know many of them have been quite disrupted over the last couple of years and perhaps haven't had the opportunities they could. But if we can invest in those sort of people now, that will create just an amazing future for Griffith over the next 10 and 20 years.
Now, it seems a really exciting moment in time for the sector where we're, as you say, heading out of COVID. Where's the money coming from? How can you fund these new roles?
Look, I was very fortunate to inherit a university that had been run extremely well financially and had some money put away. And we did have a good 2021, as many universities did. And so we put aside a small amount of strategic funding to try and set ourselves up for the future. As I said, we had robust discussions about how should we spend that money, what is the most strategic thing we could do. And we just kept coming back to the importance of people. And bringing on these extra 100 academics is not just wonderful because they'll be great people, but it's also, I think, a real boosting confidence for other colleagues around the university. To be honest, helping some of them with workloads that they might have had. It's wonderful for students because almost all of these positions are teaching and research positions. And there's a group that's just teaching positions, scholarly teaching fellows. So we'll have even more full-time staff who'll be engaging with the students. So it just ticks every box for us.
Was it a hard decision? A lot of vice chancellors, when they have a small surplus in play, get on to the next building project. Instead of pulling out the shovel, you've gone, let's get people on board.
Look, we have building projects going on too. And, you do have to do that. It always feels like, oh, well, why don't we do something other than building? But if you do that for long enough, you end up with a crumbling estate and nobody wants to work there because it's, we're here in Queensland, it's going to be covered in mold and the last 3 floods in there. So we are still absolutely getting on with some building projects. But this, in some ways, it wasn't a hard decision. Once we really focused in on what we could do, and it requires, I think the thing that it requires is a sense of optimism about the future and a willingness to bet on a positive future, even though at the moment there's still quite a lot of uncertainty and difficulty around.
Was there any thought of this in terms of succession planning? We've seen a lot of the stats with the higher education workforce getting older. A lot of older staff are still sticking with the sector, but there is this ongoing question of, well, where do early and mid-career researchers find a future? Where do they get their start, and where's the progression? Has that been part of the thinking?
No, it has. And there are some particular schools where they've done quite a thoughtful workforce analysis. What's the next 5 and 10 years going to look like? How can we make sure we've grown mid-career? You can't suddenly grow a mid-career researcher. How can we make sure that we've got people on track? Griffith isn't, has still quite a number of younger staff, which is fantastic. But yeah, we really are thinking about the future. And I think many of us are concerned to try and make sure that there are opportunities for young people. There are brilliant young people coming out of their PhDs and postdocs. And we had opportunities ourselves. We can't create an infinite number of opportunities, but we'd really like to do our part to make sure that there is some chance. And this is not altruistic. We think it'll be great for us over the medium term as well.
Now, you've been at Griffith 4 years now. It's enough time to get a really good feel for the institution, get a lot of the introductory work that any vice chancellor has to get out of the way when they join. where to from here? There's been COVID, the Olympics have landed on the doorstep. I guess this is also a great opportunity to think, well, if I am a young early career researcher, why would I make the move to Griffith? What rather than stay where I am?
So, and I think those two questions are interrelated, because I would say the reason you'd want to come is because of the sort of institution we are, but also the sort of institution we're planning to be. So over the next 5 years, we are going to build on an existing great sense of momentum. We've had a real lift in ambition and vision, and a sense that there are big, difficult things that we can do, that we are the right institution, not to do everything. No institution's the right one to do everything. But you would be joining an institution that's on a real upward trajectory and is full of a restless ambition to keep making itself better. There's no complacency here. I think the things that I learned about Griffith when I came in, now getting on for 5 years ago, that perhaps I didn't expect as much, but were incredibly welcome surprises, and I think should be attractive to people thinking about where to make their career. The first is that it is an incredibly warm, welcoming, inclusive place, and I hear that a lot from staff. Maybe everyone would be nice to the Vice Chancellor, I don't know, but I hear that from staff who've come in from other institutions, that, oh, everybody's so friendly, people go out of their way to make you feel part of the team. And that's not the environment in every institution. And I think it's something really special here. And it's connected to the other thing that I found out quite early in my time at Griffith, but wasn't perhaps as obvious from the outside. We've tried to make it a bit more obvious during my time. As you do when you start, I talk to students, I talk to staff, I talk to alumni, I talk to stakeholders, I talk to government, and ask them what was special about Griffith as far as they were concerned. What do they want to preserve? And over people said, it's a values-led organisation. It really lives its values. Remember one person saying, I know it's on everybody's website and I know it's on everybody's glossy brochure, but we actually walk the walk here at Griffith. And that's absolutely true. And so maybe that won't appeal to everybody, but I think there are a lot of younger academics who are thinking that they want to belong to an institution where they can, what we say in our marketing, that they want to make it, they want to have success in their own career, and you absolutely can do that here. But they also want to make it matter. They want to make a difference to the society they're part of, and that's in our DNA.
Now, I find it interesting, you mentioned marketing there. You've got a really substantial package, but you really haven't attempted to dress this up in any way. This is very much about, we don't need to sell this, but it's an initiative which doesn't need a name. It's just there because people will understand our purpose. Is that sort of the thinking that you were going down?
Yeah, I mean, look, we could call this Growing Griffith or Griffith 2032 or whatever we want. That's fine, but that's ultimately not important. And we are not looking for people who are attracted by some sort of slick marketing campaign. We're looking for people who are really passionate about working at a university like Griffith, have demonstrated capacity and talent, and want to work somewhere where they'll be valued and be able to do something valuable. The names and the titles and the marketing can come and go, but we're really looking for people who want an enduring relationship with our university, not just somebody who is attracted by sort of shiny, interesting campaign.
I think it's really interesting also to look at, life lessons. So have you ever taken a move to a different institution and thought, oh, that actually wasn't the right fit for me? Are there lessons from your career or from others that you've been close to where you thought, so how does anyone decide, is this the right fit for me?
And of course, you're always trying to do that before you make the move rather than discovering it afterwards. And we will try and make sure that people have a genuine opportunity to meet with people who they would be engaging with in the team they'd be in. We will have a number of these positions set aside for Indigenous scholars. And so we'll make sure they get to meet the broader Indigenous community at Griffith as well. But yeah, look, it is hard to tell. Everybody's obviously putting on their best face when you're trying to recruit somebody. So we'd always encourage people to reach out, that there are networks across nationally, reach out to people they know who do work here, ask what it is like. We have no fear of that because we think most of our staff are really see this as a good place to work. Look, I've been lucky in my career. I spent a long time at the University of Melbourne, which has similarities and differences to Griffith, and that was a wonderful workplace for me, and I was very happy there. I spent some time at Oxford, and I'm really pleased to have had that experience. It's an exceptional university. You can see what truly great by world standards looks like. You don't have to call yourself the Oxford of the South or anything, you just are Oxford. But I think it was also clear to me that that wasn't the place I wanted to build my career, and that the culture there at the time wasn't one that I felt at home and comfortable with. So, but yeah, even being at places like that for a while, I worked at a commercial law firm for a while. I always knew that wasn't where I wanted to end up, but I learned things. I don't regret having done it. There's always things that you can develop and grow with. But we're not looking to trick anyone into coming to Griffith, try and pretend that we're something that we're not. We're not a GO8. We're not the top of the league for everything, but we're university on the move. We're going to hit our 50th anniversary in 2 years, and we want, when we get to that 50th anniversary, to have a really great group of staff with us.
How will this work? So say there's 100 people out there right now who would be amazing for the institution, and it's the right fit for them, and they all happen to be working in physics. How is that going to work? How are you going to work out who gets the job?
So it's not just 100 open positions on any basis. For our Indigenous positions, we are opening it to people from any discipline or background, as long as they meet the academic criteria required, but we do have some preferences in certain areas. But for the others, there are particular jobs that are open which meet our strategic needs for the future. So there are a certain number in criminology with particular areas of focus. There are certain numbers in environmental science with particular focus. So, if we get 100 applicants for one job, well, then we're going to have an absolutely first-rate outcome from that position, I'm sure. But it's not just an open call to everyone. We will have a website set up. People will be able to go and see what positions are open, and we'll be advertising them in tranches over the next few months, just to allow the institution to do each process properly. Please do go and look. And of course, there are all the ordinary positions that come up anyway. So even if your particular area doesn't have one of these 100 special positions, we'll also make sure that website has some information about, so-and-so's retired, and so there'll be a new job in a particular department or school.
And then how are you going to let people know that the new roles will come up? They'll go out through, a range of ads, and I'm assuming, and so there'll be, I would guess, a sequence of probably mini campaigns to, at least let people know, communication campaigns.
Yeah, that's right. So all of the traditional media and social media ways of doing that. And also, of course, encouraging our existing staff to use their networks. Often academics in the field will know who the great person is. They've been to a conference and heard some postdoc give a brilliant paper and think, let's reach out and see if she's interested in a role at Griffith. So we will be trying to have that campaign as extensive as possible. We're not using a big search firm for these positions. We've got internal capacity to do it. We really want to own these roles, and we want to make sure these people feel very directly connected to us as a university, rather than through an intermediary.
You mentioned before, Griffith is not trying to be everything to all people. What are the areas of strength that you're really trying to develop over the next few years?
So look, we do have positions over, we are a very comprehensive university, and we have positions over a number of areas. We have a very strong social sciences background. So our criminology area has been particularly strong and had some incredible outcomes, both in terms of their teaching and their research. We're looking building at that strength and some of the associated strengths in areas around that, like law and humanities. So we have opportunities there, but equally we have some really good opportunities in both sciences and health. Some of the health ones are joint clinical appointments with the local hospital and health services, which has allowed us to advertise some of those at a slightly higher level. So it is a fairly wide cross section, and I can't touch on all of it here, so please do have a look at the webpage if you're interested in these positions. But those are some of the areas of strength that we're particularly looking to grow.
And what's it like? You mentioned you'd moved from Melbourne to Griffith to Queensland. What's the lifestyle like? Everyone assumes, well, am I going to go and live on the Gold Coast or something? What is life actually like?
I went to live on the Gold Coast. Yeah, it's fabulous. It's the middle of winter, and last weekend it was 25 degrees both days. The skies were blue, and I was walking along a really beautiful beach. And I will say, when I was in Melbourne, I must admit I made the typical Southerners assumption that the Gold Coast and Surfers Paradise are the same things, which they're not. As a Gold Coaster, I almost never go to the surfers. It's a really beautiful part of the world, and we've got campuses at the Gold Coast, in Logan, and around southern Brisbane and in Brisbane itself. So different positions are located in different places. I think Queensland's a great place, and with the Olympics and Paralympics coming up in 2032, it's such an extraordinary opportunity. If there's one thing that Griffith is absolutely Australia leading in, it's elite athletic performance. So we have the biggest elite sports program in the country, and in terms of Olympics, Paralympics, Commonwealth Games, by far and away the highest performance there. We beat most countries most years. We would have been fifth in the Commonwealth Games if we were a country. So we are an institution that not only does that with our students, but also we have a lot of research, whether it be tourism or public policy, as well as straight out sports, more traditional disciplines that are going to get really engaged. So it's a pretty good time to be in Queensland. There's a lot of building going on. There's a sense of positivity, and we weren't as badly impacted by the lockdown. So I think it hasn't been quite as hard to rebuild the ordinary social connections as perhaps it has been in some parts of Melbourne and Sydney.
Just one final point, and something that might crop up in people's minds as a point of concern. Housing is a huge issue across the nation at the moment. Will it be challenging for people who decide they do want to move to Griffith to find a home?
I think it's probably fair to say that that's an issue, as you say, almost anywhere that you go in Australia at the moment. It's becoming a little bit easier up here, but it's not straightforward. I wouldn't want to pretend otherwise to people. But that being said, there are quite a few developments, including right in the middle of Brisbane, will open up. The Queen's Wharf development will be opening up soon. So there's a lot going on from that point of view. And there are also opportunities. People sometimes choose to commute a bit from some of the really beautiful communities that are within a reasonably easy striking distance of either Brisbane or the Gold Coast, up in the hinterlands, for example. And that can be a terrific lifestyle choice as well.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Caroline. That's a really great opportunity for 100 more people to come and look at a new career.
Thanks, Tim. We're looking forward to seeing some of them.